The Convenience Store by the Sea by Sonoko Machida. Translated by Bruno Navasky. Chapter 6. A Christmas Caprice. It was 8:45 a.m. Mitsuri Nakao's shift started at 9, and when she opened the door to the staff room, the scent of roses was so strong she almost choked. A richness of roses, she blurted out and looked around. 2 huge bouquets had been left there, so big they barely fitted on the table. The roses in both were a deep crimson color, but the petals of one were streaked with figures of gold. Thinking they were artificial, Mitsuri took a closer look, but they were actual roses, with letters impressed in gold leaf on the petals, Mon Chéri. There were easily 30 roses in the bouquet, and on the petals of each, the same thing was written in tiny, delicate letters. Love is a heavy burden, thought Mitsuri, and let out a sharp laugh. Those look really expensive, don't they? I'm sure it's something about love, but what does it mean? It's French. Apparently it means my darling, said Muraoka, a college student who worked part-time at the store. He had arrived earlier and spoke without looking up from his phone, but he must have noticed the gold lettering as well. He lifted his head for a moment and scanned the room, then grimaced. I mean, he's really popular, isn't he? You know who. Muraoka had started at Tenderness almost a year ago, but he wasn't a big fan of Shiba. It's not that he disliked him, he said, but when they got too close to each other, his nose would itch and he'd be unable to stop sneezing. He never made a big deal about it, just said it was probably his allergies, but Shiba always seemed a little lonely around him, being treated like pollen. I still don't understand what's so great about the store manager, he said earnestly, but sometimes I get the feeling I'm in the minority. Mitsuri, too, took a quick look around. The staff room, which was not particularly large, was piled high with gifts of all sorts. Large stuffed animals, gift bags from well-known stores, boxes tied round with brightly colored ribbons. They were all for Shiba, the store manager, courtesy of his legion of fans, who weren't about to miss the opportunity to shower him with love during the holiday season. I mean, wasn't he working his shift until 9 p.m. last night? Why didn't he take some of this stuff home with him? At Muraoka's words, the smile disappeared from Mitsuri's face. He took yesterday's lot home already. Yesterday was Christmas Eve, and Mitsuri had been on duty from morning to sundown, but even now, thinking about it gave her heartburn. The store was jam-packed with Christmas sale items, and then on top of that, gifts addressed to Shiba kept arriving one after another, in quick succession. A crowd of people had queued up in front of the register where Shiba was stationed, so that the whole situation began to resemble a celebrity autograph session at a convention. I'm very happy that we can all be together on Christmas Eve, Shiba said with a calm smile, and the store erupted in joyful shrieks. One by one, the customers stepped forward to present their gifts, fidgeting while the store manager would frown as if troubled and say something like, "Of course, your patronage at the store makes me happy enough." Mitsuri, who was busy scanning barcodes for rice bowls and energy drinks, could hardly keep track of where she was or what she was doing. Who in their right mind would expect to hear someone shouting, "Time at the front is limited to 2 minutes per person," in a place like this? And their celebrity icon, well, It was just a convenience store, and he was just its manager. The queue on Shiba's side of the counter went on forever, so he couldn't step away from the register, even for a minute. Shiba's fans purchased products in large quantities, probably because it meant they got to be close to him for a few seconds longer, so restocking the shelves, which were emptying at an abnormally fast pace, was added to the workload of the staff. Hirose, another part-timer who had come in yesterday, had said, with bloodshot eyes, "This is just too much. Let's set up a tent for the manager in the car park, and they can do what they want with him." But even while Mitsuri was doing her best to restrain Hirose from making good on his suggestion, the shelves continued to empty. Mitsuri shuddered involuntarily as she flashed back to yesterday's disastrous spectacle, then said to Muraoka, "All I know is that the managers already made 2 trips home to clear out the gifts. So all these must have arrived after he went off duty." "What? Are you kidding me? Well, his place must be a real sight to see by now, don't you think?" Muraoka grimaced again, and Mitsuri nodded in response. There were surely enough gifts up there for him to open a small shop of his own. The manager ought to take on a new line of work. If he really applied himself, he could transform Majiko's economy. We could be bigger than Hakata. Muraoka picked up a small package that was near at hand as he spoke, while Mitsuri laughed at his words. "I know how you feel," she said, "but you know, even if he has the ability, he doesn't have the desire." Mitsuri had felt much the same as Muraoka at first, but as she spent more time with Shiba and got to know him better, her thinking changed. She came to understand that Shiba loved the convenience store with all his heart. He observed all of his customers carefully and had a thorough knowledge of the regulars. Even in the midst of yesterday's insanity with the gifts, he'd addressed each and every person in the queue by name. Shiba did his job with more care and precision than any of the area managers or even the supervisors from head office. It was said that the number of customers had grown explosively since Shiba became manager, and now the Golden Villa branch boasted the top sales ranking for all of Fukuoka Prefecture. He was in the store so often that customers speculated that he lived there, and his enthusiasm for sales events and other store activities was unparalleled. It got to the point where it seemed as though Shiba was even devoting his personal time to the store, but he always seemed to be enjoying himself. "I like to spend time in the shop," he'd say. He took great pleasure in seeing all the joys and sorrows of his customers' lives, he said, and his happiest moment ever was surely the day he learned that 2 regular customers were to be wed. Apparently, the couple had met in the dine-in space, and one thing led to another. When the 2 of them had come to Shiba to let him know their plans, his cheeks had turned bright red, and he said, "Thank you," almost as if they had confessed their love for him instead of for each other. It's an honor to be a part of such joy in someone's life. And I couldn't be more delighted that it happened at this store. I wish you every happiness. Shiba saw the 2 of them off, beaming from ear to ear, and Mitsuri could see that although the man might seem outwardly suspect, he had a true love for the convenience store, and that made her happy. No matter what anyone around him might say, the man had found his life's work. "The manager is off duty today, right? It's Christmas, so he's got to be seeing his special someone," Muraoka said, setting the box down next to the roses while Mitsuri pulled her uniform jacket out of the locker. "I wonder if such a person exists," Mitsuri said. She tilted her head. "I've been working here for quite a few years now, and I haven't heard anything like that. Although I see him together with people in suspicious circumstances all the time." Over the years, Mitsuri had encountered Shiba out one-on-one with all sorts of people in various places around town. No matter the companion, the air was always thick with significance. Each time, Mitsuri would be certain she'd finally caught him at the crucial moment, but then when he'd see her, he wouldn't seem flustered at all. He'd just flash an innocent smile and say, "Nice to see you. Keep up the good work." He never showed the slightest sign of nerves or a guilty conscience, so Mitsuri would feel as if she were the one with the overactive imagination and could never bring herself to ask about the relationship between him and whomever. She always swore she'd ask the next time, but she'd never caught him with the same person twice. "Are they all one-night stands?" "No, I couldn't say that. I really don't know." Shiba was single, after all, and had the right to love anyone he pleased. In fact, Mitsuri hoped he did. It just meant more material for her. But I don't think he has a special someone. If he did, we'd have heard about it by now from the Golden Villa Ladies Association. Shiba's fan club, which managed the dine-in space, was a group of lively and battle-tested older women. Shoei had told her that there were unofficial members of the club in addition to the building residents and that their network extended throughout Majiko. Even if she took his story with a grain of salt, she couldn't overlook the possibility that Shiba's actual favorite was among these. Normal people might have fan clubs in manga, but it's not something you see particularly often in real life. Also, I don't know much about his private life outside the store, so I'm curious, you know. "Oh? Muraoka, are you falling under the manager's spell?" "I'm just interested in the ecology of rare species," Muraoka said nonchalantly. "How about you?" Mitsuri laughed. How could she not be? Although they had been working together all these years, Shiba was still an enigma wrapped in a riddle to her, and she couldn't see where it all started or ended. "I've made it my life's work to know everything about the manager. But if I had the chance to learn everything about him all at once, that might be boring." He Pharaoh Manager's indecent diary that Mitsuri had started drawing, modeled after Shiba, was still receiving a lot of attention online. She had also started writing a spin-off called The Rough and Ready Life of Big Brother Furball, which was already becoming surprisingly popular. The possibility flitted through her mind that she was making the Shiba brothers her life's work, rather than just the manager. Right. It's time for us to get out there. She gave herself a last quick once-over in the mirror, and then, with Muraoka in tow, she left the staff room and entered the store. Instantly, Takagi, who was working the checkout counter, came running over, begging for help. "Mitsuri, it's an emergency." Takagi was a freeder, one of the growing number of young freelancers in Japan who had opted out of the career track lifestyle. He was a gentle soul with a laid-back attitude, and because he had worn a pink aloha shirt to his interview, his colleagues called him Ukulele. He sounded agitated, which was rare for him. "Are you okay?" asked Mitsuri. "What happened?" "Someone's here asking for the manager, but that happens a lot." Did you say he's taking the day off? See, that's the thing. Ukulele's cheeks turned pink. It was the first time Mitsuri had seen him act bashful this way, and she had no idea why. She gave him a curious look and said, "What is it?" Well, actually, it's a really beautiful girl. Muraoka, who was standing right behind Mitsuri, said, coming from ukulele, "That's a new one." Mitsuri sighed quietly. At this point, she had seen people of all shapes and sizes come to the store with Shiba as their exclusive object, including drop-dead gorgeous women and matinee idol men. It seemed the troublemaker this time was a woman. "And? You told her the manager was away, didn't you?" I told her. She said she'd wait until he came back over there." Ukulele pointed to the dine-in space. Normally, he'd just get the name of the girl and contact the manager for further instructions. Did he like her that much? Mitsuri said, "Ukulele, why don't you and Muraoka cover the registers for now, and I'll go check on her." Leaving the two young men, she headed to the dine-in space. The room was quiet. Typically, there would be a handful of customers, and Shoei as well would usually be present, but right now there was just the one girl, sitting by herself in a seat at the very end of the counter. She was facing away, so Mitsuri couldn't get a look at the girl's face, but her lovely straight black hair caught Mitsuri's eye. Excuse me? I gather you're waiting for the manager." Mitsuri addressed her, and the girl slowly turned. When Mitsuri saw her face, she took a small involuntary breath. Wow, the girl was gorgeous. She was like a fine-featured, life-size porcelain doll. Large eyes framed by lush eyelashes above a delicate, slightly upturned nose. Skin as pale as snow white, with peach-colored cheeks and cherry-red lips. Mitsuri thought she seemed about the same age as her son Kozai, who was in high school. Her bright white fluffy coat and tailored tweed dress heightened the porcelain doll effect. Her legs, too, were slender and white below the hem of her dress. No wonder Ukulele had been so flustered. "Could you call Mitsuhiko Shiba for me? As soon as possible, please." The girl's voice was sweet, too, as clear as a bell, although her eyebrows were knitted in what seemed to be an ill-humored frown. Her every word and gesture were captivating. She can't possibly be a living creature of the same sex as me, thought Mitsuri. While Mitsuri looked at her in fascination, the girl repeated, with some irritation, "Mitsuhiko Shiba?" Slightly taken aback, Mitsuri hastily said, "The manager is taking the day off today." "I heard that. But I don't have a mobile phone and there don't seem to be any payphones in the area, so please could you contact him for me? I tried asking the person earlier, but he didn't seem to be listening." That's what happened," said Mitsuri. "I'm very sorry." "Well, I'll try to reach him, so would you mind waiting just a little while longer?" The girl nodded, and Mitsuri returned to the shop in a hurry. She turned to Ukulele, who was standing behind the register, still looking nervous, and said, "Sorry, the girl is an honest-to-God beauty." "Are you serious?" Muraoka piped up giddily. Mitsuri grabbed the handset for the store phone and crouched down behind the counter. She hastily dialed Shiba, but she couldn't connect. She tried several times more, but each time she heard the same automated message. "The client you are trying to reach may be out of the signal area." Now, at a time like this, no matter how many times she tried, she couldn't get through. She also tried the landline at Shiba's apartment, but there was no answer there either, so he had to be out somewhere. Mitsuri returned to the dine-in space wondering what to do, but when she got there, she found the girl slumped over the countertop. "I'm sorry for keeping you. Hello?" Perhaps the girl was annoyed because it had taken so long. Mitsuri approached her, but something seemed off. Curious, she reached over and touched the back of the girl's outstretched hand. It was as cold as ice. She put her hand to the back of the girl's neck, and it was the opposite. She was burning up. "Are you sick?" It was just like when her son Kozai had a fever. Mitsuri lifted her head to look at her face, and the girl's breath was ragged. There was no mistaking it. The red in her cheeks signaled a fever. "Come with me." Mitsuri took the unsteady girl by the hand and led her to the staff room. She was shivering slightly. Maybe she had a chill? So Mitsuri raised the temperature in the room. She draped her own coat over the girl's shoulders and sat her in a chair. The dazed girl looked up at Mitsuri, her eyes cloudy with fever, and said, "Mitsuhiko Shiba, I'm so sorry. For some reason, I can't reach him. But the more important question is, do you live near here? We should have someone from your family come get you." Her self-assurance evaporated. The girl sagged against the table. Without rising, she shook her head slightly. "My home. It's in Miyazaki." "What? You came all the way from there?" Miyazaki was nearly on the opposite side of the island of Kyushu. "What can we do?" "Listen, you need to tell me what you want with the manager." "To see him, that's all," she said, in a thoroughly forlorn voice. Perhaps she had come all this way holding back her illness? Or had the journey somehow pushed her beyond the limits of what she could endure? "Excuse me, Mitsuri? What's going on?" Ukulele stuck his head nervously in the door, and when he saw the girl looking so sickly, he let out a pitiful moan. "Oh no. What happened to her?" "She didn't seem well, as you can see, so I brought her in here for now. Forgive me, but would you mind taking my shift for the moment?" "No, of course not." Ukulele returned to the shop as asked. "Well, I can't let you spend the night here, you know. The whatever guy. Call him, please." A faint voice. The girl had lifted her head slightly from the table. "Maybe Tsugi will be home." "Tsugi? You know Tsugi?" "How?" "I'm their sister. Their sister." The words bounced around in Mitsuri's head, taking a while to settle. "Their sister. Their sister? Their sister." I deserve an award for not screaming out loud right now, Mitsuri thought. Impossible. This doll of a girl, the little sister of those two? Oh. Okay, well, so you're Jewel. When she said the name she had been told earlier, the girl, Jewel, laughed a little. "I guess my brothers mentioned me?" She giggled sheepishly. Her face didn't resemble either of her brothers, but she was so beautiful that Mitsuri felt it had to be her. Any sister to those two had to be, well, something like this. Damn. Mitsuri couldn't help but wonder at what sort of creatures the remaining two brothers must be. Her curiosity was mounting, but she restrained herself. "I understand. I'll contact him immediately." She was still holding the store phone, so she dialed Sugi's mobile number. But she couldn't connect to his phone either. She just kept getting the same robotic, out-of-range message that she had heard when she tried Shiba. What? I don't get it. What could have happened to him? And it was an actual emergency. Resisting the urge to slam the phone down, Mitsuri shifted her attention to Jewel. A strand of hair cascaded down the girl's fever-flushed cheeks, and it seemed that at any moment she might fade away like a dream. First things first. I have to do something for this child. Mitsuri set the phone on the table and thought for a moment. She certainly couldn't leave the girl here in this state. Maybe it would be best for her to duck out of work now and take the girl home with her? No, when she had left the house earlier today, Cozy Eye was hanging around with several of his friends. It wouldn't be right to bring a sick girl home in the midst of all those hormonal teens, let alone such a pretty one. Was her only option to text Cozy Eye and ask him to leave the house? While Mitsuri was considering this, the doorbell for the staff room sounded. She opened the door. Several members of the Golden Villa Ladies Association were standing there. We came because our Mitsuhiko asked us to collect the rest of his holiday gifts. He said that they were piling up here and becoming a nuisance to the staff, so he wants us to put them in the Ladies Association meeting room for now. There was a common room on the third floor of the Golden Villa building, and it seemed that the ladies of the building were using it as a meeting room. Mitsuri had never set foot in the space, but the Ladies Association clearly considered it their headquarters. Mitsuri quickly scanned the group. Among them, she noticed the face of Mrs. Sakuma, a retired nurse. She bowed to her and said, "I have a small favor to ask. The manager's sister has come to visit him, but I can't seem to reach him. What's more, she seems to be unwell." Their faces transformed instantly. "May I step inside for a moment?" Mrs. Sakuma asked and then entered, the rest of the group filing in behind her. Well, the woman clucked. "What a darling dear you are. Of course our Mitsuhiko would have such an adorable little sister. So then, are you not feeling well? Let me take a good look at you. How long have you been feeling this way?" After giving Jewel a quick examination, Mrs. Sakuma turned to Mrs. Kanagawa, another association member. "Can you get your car? Let's take her to Dr. Sakaida. I think it's probably just a cold, but since it's flu season, let's be on the safe side. Mrs. Otsuka, will you go up to the meeting room and arrange the sofa so the girl can sleep when she returns? I think a girl her size will be comfortable there. Mrs. Misumi, I think the two of us should be able to get her as far as the car. Let's get to it. Forgive the imposition, Mrs. Sakuma. This is a tremendous help." Mitsuri bowed her head in thanks, and Mrs. Sakuma smiled. "She's the sister of our dear Mitsuhiko, isn't she?" she replied. "You know how grateful we all are to him. There's no way to repay his kindness, but we do anything for him." Mrs. Misumi, standing on the other side of Mrs. Sakuma, nodded in sincere agreement. "When we're done at the hospital, I'll come back here to buy ice and something for her to drink. I'll let you know how she's doing at that point, so you can stay and run the store as usual, okay?" "Yes, ma'am." Mitsuri went outside with Mrs. Sakuma and the others, helped to put Jewel in Mrs. Kanagawa's car, and returned to the store. Perhaps sensing the strange shift in the atmosphere, several customers looked worried. She returned to the checkout counter. I'm sorry for leaving you two alone on the job, she said. Forget about that, Ukulele said, but is the girl okay? His voice was a notch higher than usual. Is she sick? Beautiful girls are always getting sick. And while we're on the subject, what does she have to do with the store manager? Unlike Ukulele, who was a study in sincerity, Muraoka adopted a more casual attitude. Mitsuri addressed them both. She's the manager's younger sister. She may have put herself through too much stress coming to visit him when she wasn't well. Mrs. Sakuma said it's probably just a cold, but her fever was awfully high, so that's a concern. Mitsuri let out a sigh and looked out the window towards the car park for a quiet moment, and then bedlam erupted in the store. It was almost as if an armed robbery were in progress. What? The manager. The manager's sister? A beauty. You don't say? He has family? I thought he was all alone in the world. Wait. I wasn't really looking when they came out. I want to see her. I want to see. Excuse me. Did someone say the manager's sister is coming? Mr. Shiba has a beautiful, sick sister? No. Perish the thought. The occupants of the store surged in unison towards the checkout counter, surrounding Mitsuri. Now I've really done it, she said ruefully, looking at the clamoring, hysterical crowd. She'd spoken carelessly. When I asked the manager if he had a family, he whispered, "Take some time to get to know me." Now must be the time. This last comment came from a friend of Muraoka, cheeks blushing red. Mitsuri didn't know how long he'd been in the store, but he'd been coming to do his shopping there nearly every day lately. Muraoka overheard and gasped in shock. Not you too. What are you saying? You like the manager. Think before you speak, his friend snapped. I'm not so crude that I'd look at him that way. He's a noble soul. Muraoka was speechless. A woman standing nearby blurted out, "How can you be such a fool?" I knew that he had a sister. He has an older brother, too. So there are 3 of them. That's right, you're way off base. There's also a dog that's like a member of the family. His name is Silver, and they're inseparable, I know for a fact. Hey. Enough about the siblings, I know his grandmother's name. She's called Hatsune, which means first song. Lovely, isn't it? Her name has nothing to do with anything right now. This is utter chaos, Mitsuri thought. They're behaving just like my son Kozai used to do. In elementary school, when he got really intent on a card game, he'd make the same faces. Haha, my card beats them all. Hey there, excuse me. Takichi Otsuka appeared, apparently sent down by Mrs. Otsuka. They said Shiba's sister was ill? That's rough. My wife told me to buy ice and frozen water bottles and leave them in the meeting room. Another woman, who had been waving around a gift card, called out, "What? What?" The manager's sister is returning. She was holding a gift bag from a famous local confectionery, most likely another gift for Shiba. Mitsuri felt cold sweat running down her back. She had made a terrible mistake. She had completely forgotten what a high percentage of Shiba fans would be in the store today. Listen, Mr. Otsuka, that is. Mitsuri tried to send him a silent signal with her eyes to say only what was necessary. But he didn't catch on. He recoiled a little from the woman, who was now clutching his sleeve, but responded, "Yes, that's correct." Hearing that, The woman decided for some reason to give a triumphant fist pump. Then she thrust the bag towards Mitsuri and said in a wheedling voice, "Will you give this to the little sister to eat? It's a fruit tart from the manager's favorite shop. I'm certain his sister would enjoy it as well." "No, no, no," another customer interjected. "You can't give a tart to a child with a cold. That's nothing but trouble." "Excuse me, but I've just purchased all these fruit jellies. Why don't you give those to the girl instead? And if you don't mind, why don't I help care for her?" She raised her shopping basket, crammed with the store's entire stock of fruit jellies. The fruit tart woman snapped at her. "Don't be ridiculous. If the manager finds a strange woman hovering around his treasured little sister, he's just going to be offended. Isn't trying to lure him in with convenience store jellies a little bit crude?" "What?" "Mr. Shiba loves Tenderness sweets, so I think he'll be delighted, not offended." "You think so? Or will he just marvel at what a dull, unimaginative woman you are?" While the two were bickering, more customers were joining in with comments. "What?" "The manager's sister. A catastrophe." The situation was getting out of control, and Mitsuri was starting to feel dizzy. What should she do? Mitsuri spent the rest of the morning trying desperately to deal with the distraught patrons, that is to say, Shiba's fans, and left it to Ukulele, who had completely missed any chance he might have had to go home, to try to contact Shiba and Tsugi. I felt like I might die. By the time she had finally restored order, Mitsuri was more exhausted than ever. She had steeled herself for a difficult shift yesterday on Christmas Eve, but today she had been caught completely off guard. Both Muraoka and his colleague Kido, a young woman who had the afternoon shift, had a hollow look about them. Even New Year's Eve won't be as bad as this. The makeup on Kido's normally perfectly styled face was smeared and half missing in places. Muraoka nodded silently. Normally, the two of them would have worked each other up into a chorus of complaints, but he no longer seemed to have the energy. One possible reason for that was the hard time his friend had given him about Shiba. You must be blind if you can't see how wonderful the manager is. If you're going to be a useless ass, who needs you? Anyway, I hope the manager's little sister will be okay, Kido said. Mrs. Otsuka's husband dropped by a little while ago and said it was just a bad cold. They gave her fluids at the Sakita clinic, and now she's dozing in the Ladies' Association meeting room. Oh, really? That's good. Apparently, the Ladies' Association members are looking after her. The ladies were all experts, trained over long years of caring for children and grandchildren, so Jewel had nothing to worry about. But where would the manager have gone? You know, there have been times in the past when I couldn't reach him. The three of them were puzzling together over the question when Ukulele came galloping out of the staff room with the phone handset. "I found him. The manager said he was with the whatever guy, and now they're coming here. He said his little sister left to come here without telling their parents, and everyone was looking high and low for her. Mitsuri, he wants to talk to you." He handed her the phone, and Mitsuri hastened back into the staff room. "Hello," she said, and in a voice lacking his usual composure, Shiba said, "I'm so sorry for all the trouble. Takagi gave me the basics, but I gather it was a rough day for everyone. It's all settled down now. But what in the world happened to you?" According to Shiba, his parents had noticed Jewel's absence that morning. At around the same time, he and his brother Tsugi had left together for their home in Miyazaki, bearing Christmas presents for their sister. You couldn't reach us because our home is up in the mountains here in Miyazaki, so there's no cell signal. We didn't have any idea that Jewel was going to Mijiko, so we had just been searching the area here. Then my brother just blurted out, "I have a funny feeling she's in Mijiko." Of course! His magic sixth sense, right? She heard a sigh from Shiba on the other end of the line. And Tsugi grumbling, "Why'd she have to come all the way to Mijiko?" Mitsuri, "Did Jewel say anything to you about it?" No, even if she had wanted to, she wasn't in any condition to talk. "My shift ends at 3 p.m. today, so I'll go looking on her then." It would be wrong to make the Golden Villa Ladies Association do all the work. "Thank you," Shiba said. "That's a great help." He thought he'd arrive in the evening and would have to rely on her until then. Mitsuri finished her shift, and when her work was done, she went up to the meeting room. Ukulele hovered around as if he wanted to join her, but at the last minute, he just handed her an armful of bottled electrolyte and energy drinks, saying, "Give her these. It might scare her to have a strange man around." Mitsuri was just thinking how impressed she was by his thoughtfulness when he added, "In all seriousness, can you make sure she's really his sister? If she's his girlfriend, I might not be able to work anymore due to the shock." His face was so solemn that Mitsuri just nodded silently and didn't make a single joke about the fact that he seemed to have fallen in love. "How is Jewel doing?" The meeting room was larger and more well-equipped than Mitsuri had imagined. There was a kitchen with a large refrigerator and an induction stove, a fancy leather reception set, and the furnishings in general were of such quality as to make the room look more like the office of the president of a small company. The roses from that morning had been arranged in a large vase and were on display in the center of a coffee table. Mrs. Sakuma and Mrs. Nose, the association's former president, were relaxing on opposite sides of the table, having a leisurely coffee. "Oh, she's not here?" Mitsuri asked. There was no sign of the girl. "She's next door," Mrs. Nose replied. It seemed that the adjoining room had been converted into a screening room with a full-size screen and projector. Mrs. Nose explained that there was also a large sofa there, so the ladies could watch movies in comfort, and Jewel was sleeping on the sofa. "Don't worry, there's a heater and humidifier in there, so the temperature and everything is just right for her. Sorry to put you through so much trouble. Thank you for everything." Mitsuri bowed her head in thanks, but she was still taking in the surroundings, impressed. Right next to where the two ladies were sitting, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, there were a number of life-sized panel portraits of a smiling Shiba. Were they custom-made? Mitsuri had never been a huge fan of people in real life. Her passions had always run towards the two-dimensional, and when she was young, the walls of her room were plastered with illustrated figures. Her mother would say, "Whenever I go in your room, I always get a creepy feeling like I'm being watched." Mitsuri was always a little frustrated that nobody understood how cool it was. "I'm sorry, Mother. Now I finally know how you felt," Mitsuri thought. To someone who wasn't a member of the Shiba fan club, the way his eyes followed you around the room was quite unsettling. He was a good-looking man and one of her favorite subjects, but she still found it disturbing. "You must be tired, Mitsuri. Please have a seat." Mrs. Nose stood up and with easy motions made Mitsuri a coffee. Mrs. Sakuma gestured towards the sofa, and when Mitsuri sat, offered her an assortment of cookies and chocolates. "Oh, Mrs. Sakuma, there's also some cake in the fridge. Will you put some out for Mitsuri?" "Yes, of course." "Mitsuri, dear, are you hungry? We have a chilled Bavarian cream, too." That's okay." Of course, Mrs. Nose and Mrs. Sakuma were perfectly suited to this space. It seemed natural to them that there were giant photos of Shiba. Once again, Mitsuri felt the depth of his fan club's love for him. "Well, anyway, I wanted to let you know that you were all a huge help today. You really saved us. Also, I just spoke with the manager, and he's on his way here now. He said to be sure to share his gratitude." Mitsuri explained that the brothers had gone home to deliver Christmas gifts to their sister, only to find that she had swapped places with them. Mrs. Nose and Mrs. Sakuma nodded in satisfaction. "He thinks of his sister, of course. Isn't that just like our Mitsuhiko? I just knew it would be something like that." Mitsuri was drawn into conversation with the ladies. Mostly, they subjected her to a series of complaints about people lurking around the building trying to find out if this was where Shiba lived. The Ladies' Association would lay down their lives to protect their Mitsuhiko's privacy, of course, but people kept coming. No matter what they did, drawn to his charm like moths to the flame. It was clearly because he was such a fine and virtuous man, but it caused a lot of trouble. After the topic had been more or less exhausted, the ladies seemed to subside. "I should go home and get dinner ready. And my husband's dialysis treatment should be over by now. I'd better go pick him up." Making their respective excuses, the two of them departed. Just amazing as always. They were all about the same age as Mitsuri's mother, but the Golden Villa ladies had a certain formidable quality. When she asked them about it, a chorus of voices in reply claimed they were getting stronger every day thanks to Shiba's presence. I ought to start a Shiba health system, Mitsuri thought. A revolutionary new system where one simply drinks a cup of tea with Shiba and is thereby rejuvenated. Wouldn't that be something? I really want to do that. Mitsuri washed the coffee cups and dishes, amusing herself with such idle thoughts, when there was a faint noise and the door to the next room opened. Jewel's face quietly emerged. "Oh, you're up? How are you feeling?" A lot better, I think. You had a very high fever, so rest a little while longer. Do you want something to drink? There are also fruit jellies and ice pops. If you have an energy drink, I could have that." "We do. You go lie down, and I'll bring you one." Carrying one of the drinks that Ukulele had given her, Mitsuri entered the back room. There was an expensive-looking sofa and table, and fancy name-brand hi-fi speakers were installed in the corners and ceiling of the room. This would surely be a great place to sit back and watch a movie. But of course, all the walls were heavily decorated with portraits and photos of Shiba, so it would be difficult to focus on the film, thought Mitsuri with a wry smile. "It's incredible, isn't it, this room?" Jewel, who was reclining on the ivory sofa, nodded and looked around the room. "It really is incredible." The people from before, they said they were Mitsu's fan club. Right, the fan club. They can be a little intense. Mitsuri thought she'd surely be surprised, but Jewel just said, "It's always the same." It was like that when he was in high school, but I just realized it still happens now. Mitsuri gasped in disbelief. His high school fan club had very strict rules. For example, each member could only write Mitsu 2 letters per month. And you had to write your member number on the letter. That sort of thing. We still get lots of New Year's cards with numbers. Jewel giggled, but Mitsuri was astonished. A high school student with a fan club. So had the whole charm thing started in his teens? She wished she could have been there to see it. "Oh, that's right," Mitsuri said with a start. "I almost forgot your drink. Take this for now, but drink it slowly." She handed a bottle to Jewel, who had settled herself snugly back into the sofa again. She was as lovely as Snow White or Sleeping Beauty. When she lifted the bottle to drink, her slender throat was exposed, and that too was beautiful. If her brother had a high school fan club, it wouldn't be much of a stretch to imagine that this girl had one of her own, Mitsuri thought. "Oh, speaking of home," Mitsuri remembered to ask, "they said you came all the way here without telling your parents or brothers?" Jewel suddenly became very still. "The manager said he and Sugi went home to bring you their Christmas presents. If you had only told them, you wouldn't have missed each other." "What, really?" Jewel lowered the plastic bottle. "They came home for me? Why didn't you tell anyone?" It must have been a hard trip, all the way from Miyazaki to here. "My friend was going to a concert in Hakata, so she said her parents could drive me that far." Still, why not tell someone? "You know I'm not angry or anything, right? I just have a kid who's about the same age as you, so I'm curious. He's in 11th grade." Mitsuri smiled as she said this, and Jewel murmured, "One below me." She thought for a few moments and then asked, "Your child. Does he have a plan for his future?" "Who, Koziai?" "Not at all." Mitsuri chuckled, picturing her son lost in the video game with his friends when she was leaving earlier. But then she saw the earnest look on Jewel's face and added more seriously, "Our son still doesn't know what he wants to do." "He doesn't? But he'll have to think about it at some point soon, won't he? Like a year from now, for instance." "Well, perhaps. But I don't think you can really set a deadline for that kind of thing, can you? I mean, he might discover it when he's in college or else after he graduates when he starts working. Look at me. I'm doing exactly what I want to do, but I've only really felt that way for a few years now. If that's how it is for me, it wouldn't be very fair to tell my own child that he has to make up his mind immediately, right at this moment, now would it?" Mitsuri laughed, then added to Jewel, who was giving her a doubtful look, "Of course it would worry me to see him stumbling blindly through life, searching for fulfillment. At some point he'll have to set aside his dreams and learn to live life as a mature, independent human being. But I believe there will come a time when he has a clear sense of what he wants to do. Or that's my hope anyway." Jewel looked down at the bottle she had clasped between her hands. "Mothers all say the same things," she murmured in a small voice. "My parents said that too. But I don't have the slightest idea. My brothers all found what they wanted to do and left. But I can't. I'm worried I'll spend the rest of my life this way, living with my parents, chopping firewood. Mitsuri knew all about the vague anxieties of youth. She had been listening with sympathy to Jewel, but had she heard the last part correctly? Now, in this day and age, had she really said she was chopping firewood? It's not that I don't like life in the mountains. My parents love it too. But I also really want to see what it's like to live in the city, with electricity and everything, so I don't know what to do. What was this? Mitsuri had heard that their house was set far back into the mountains of Miyazaki, but was it really that primitive there? She had a feeling this would be the wrong time to verify that with Jewel. Anyway, I wanted to talk to my brothers about it. The oldest one and the youngest one are overseas, so I thought I'd visit the two here in Majiko. Yes, I see. Mitsuri had said she was going to make the Shiba brothers her life's work, but now their story was moving at such a breakneck speed that she couldn't keep up. What to do? Now was the time to act like an adult and offer Jewel some sage advice, but it was too much. Mitsuri had to restrain herself from asking the girl to break it into installments. Well, I think I understand, more or less. Your brothers will be back soon, so you can take your time and ask them for advice. That will be good. And of course, I'll talk to them too. Jewel gave a smile of relief, and Mitsuri smiled back at her. Shiba and Sugi returned after sundown. Sorry. And thank you, Mitsuri. With a brotherly protectiveness that Mitsuri hadn't seen before, the two turned their stern attention to Jewel, who was reclining on the sofa. Listen, now. We were at our wits' end searching for you. I'm sorry. Jewel hung her head, and the two of them both sighed. Do you know how worried we were? This had better not happen again, said Sugi. I won't do it again, Jewel said with resolve. I understand that I caused a lot of trouble for everyone. Shiba's expression softened. Well, obviously, you had your reasons, right? And we'll talk about all of that, but, why is Mr. Kiriyama here? At some point, Kiriyama seemed to have joined the four of them in the meeting room. Clearly, I've come at a difficult time. Forgive me. He bowed his head in apology. A friend gave me some delicious duck meat, and I thought I'd bring it here to thank you all for everything you've done for me. Kiriyama had come on the train from Oita with a large cooler bag. At this point, he had stayed at Shiba's place so often it had become a regular part of their friendship, so Mitsuri didn't think it would be a problem and had let him in. Hey, Yoshiro, Sugi said gleefully. You remembered that duck was my favorite, didn't you? Kiriyama smiled affably. I brought a lot of green onions and grilled tofu, too. We can make a duck hot pot. I asked your sister, and apparently she likes duck, too. Also, I think the green onions might be good for her cold. That reminds me, Shiba said. How are you doing, Jewel? Your color seems good. The trip to the clinic and the medication seemed to have helped. Jewel's fever had dissipated completely. She had a lingering cough, but according to Mrs. Sakuma, it wouldn't be a problem as long as the room stayed humid and the girl continued to rest. Good. But deepest thanks to all of you. I'm in your debt, really. Manager, the fridge is about to burst. It's so full, Mitsuri piped up. Somehow the news got out that your little sister was convalescing here, and it spread like wildfire. We received piles of sympathy gifts on top of the Christmas gifts, and we're getting a little snowed under. It wasn't just the women in the Golden Villa apartments, but also the building's men and a number of other area residents who all joined forces and put together a care package. Fruits and jellies, puddings, and more. It was far too much to fit in the one fridge, so extra items had been temporarily distributed to the households of the Ladies' Association members. Is that so? I guess it was a lot of trouble for everyone, wasn't it? Now, what's this? Shiba had noticed a plate sitting on the sofa end table. On the plate was a cookie shaped like a bear wearing a Santa Claus hat. The bear was adorable, carefully colored with sugar icing and a mischievous expression on its face. "That one's cute," Shiba said. "Which store did it come from?" "It's handmade," Mitsuri replied. "You see, there's this girl who comes to buy sweets on Tuesday evenings." You mean Azusa?" Sugi said. "Right. She said that a friend of hers who had moved to Nagasaki had come to visit. So apparently the two of them made cookies. The girls had brought one to the store for the manager and Sugi, but when they learned that Jewel was here, they said they wanted her to have it instead. It was so cute I couldn't eat it. So I was just looking at it. Wow. She did say she wanted to be the Tenderness pâtissière. It's impressive." The two brothers peered at the cookie in the dish, all gentle smiles. Watching them, Jewel said, "My brothers are awesome." You could tell she meant it with all her heart. "When everyone here found out I was their younger sister, they all took such good care of me. They said they were so grateful to my brothers. They wanted to do all these things for me. It made me really happy that everyone likes you both so much." Jewel sighed. "You found what you loved and left home, and now everyone loves you too. Obviously, you're both awesome." "I can't do that. I can't do anything." At the sound of that lonely voice, her two brothers exchanged glances. Then they sat down next to her, softly stroking her head. "Mother was telling us you've been worrying about your life to come," said Sugi. "I'm sorry we arrived late." "Worrying a little is okay," Shiba added. "It's even important, as long as you don't get too discouraged. We've both lost our bearings many times along the way, and here we are." "Really? But I don't have the slightest idea what I want next. What should I do?" Mitsuri glanced at Kiriyama, and the two of them quietly returned to the main meeting room. Jewel deserved some time alone with her brothers. "Still, it's a wonder that their sister is that cute," Kiriyama said, sinking into the sofa with a sigh. "Isn't that in itself an exceptional quality?" Mitsuri sat down opposite him and nodded. That kind of beauty was certainly an asset. "I feel as though if I don't create a storyline right now, I'm going to explode. You know what I mean? How much valuable information do you think I've acquired just in this one day?" Both Pharaoh Manager and Big Brother Furball are in desperate need of updates. Haha. I'm looking forward to them. Right, shall we make some coffee? The story of those three will be a long one. Mrs. Nose had told her to help herself to anything in the room, so Mitsuri brewed coffee for herself and Kiriyama, and they slowly drank it together. When her absent-minded gaze happened to meet the gaze of one of the panel portrait Shibas, Mitsuri gave a wry smile. "The love is so thick in this room you'd think a stalker or someone had built it, wouldn't you? It makes me wonder if they watch video slideshows of the store manager in the projection room next door. They might. Mr. Shiba seems to be fairly comfortable in front of the camera. Maybe we should develop a line of products to sell at the store." Shiba keychains. Oh, I think those would sell. You should do Tsugi too. He's also fairly popular. Kiriyama chuckled to himself as if he had just remembered something, and Mitsuri looked at him questioningly. Sometimes Tsugi lets me stay at his place, too, he said. It feels like a secret men's hideout, with all sorts of people coming and going. I was there recently, and in the middle of the night, a guy comes in. He's a professional chef, and he's carrying wine and a huge hunk of dry-aged beef. Sugi was out cold, snoring, but the guy just starts cooking in the kitchen on his own, without asking anyone, as if it were his own kitchen. Then he goes over to Tsugi, who's still sleeping, shakes him awake, and says, "Eat while it's hot." He gave me some, too, and it was really delicious. But I still haven't the faintest idea who he was. Wait, Kiriyama, cried Mitsuri. Don't tell me all that now. It's too much. I don't want to miss any of it, but I can't possibly process any more material at the moment. Jewel's entrance on the scene today had been so spectacular, she felt she needed to stick to the essentials. Kiriyama looked around the room. They're interesting people, aren't they? He said to Mitsuri. Piles of gifts had been placed here and there throughout the room, and a faint fragrance still emanated from the roses in front of them. Inspecting the gold lettering on the flowers, Kiriyama continued. They're loved and needed by all these people. It's hard to put into words, but they have a strange charm. Kiriyama paused. I'm so lucky to have met them, he said sincerely. Mitsuri looked at his kind face and felt a heartwarming glow spread through her. Then suddenly she realized something. Starting with Kiriyama, the lives of almost all the people surrounding the brothers had run through the convenience store, which was where they had met. Some were regulars, others just passing through. There was something special there, what Shiba had called joys and sorrows. Perhaps that was what bound them all together. Mitsuri, too, had met them the same way, through the convenience store, and thinking about that, she was deeply moved. Oh, are these the presents for Jewel from the two of them? Kiriyama had noticed a couple of parcels lying on the floor next to the couch and lifted one up. Oh, they might be. They weren't there before. Oh, this one's from the manager. Here, take a look. A card had been inserted under a broad ribbon, and they could see from Mitsuhiko written in Shiba's beautiful, flowing hand. What had Shiba got for his little sister? Mitsuri wanted to know, and as usual, the curious devil on her shoulder was getting the better of her. So that means this one must be from Tsugi. And what would he give to a teenage girl? Mitsuri picked up the second package and was rendered speechless by what she saw. The second card, nearly illegible, read, from Nihiko. Hey, Kiriyama. Can you read this? Huh? What's that? Oh, Nisiko. In Sugi's rough scrawl, the hi in his nickname, Nihiko, was indistinguishable from the SE in Nisiko, and the latter was a name she knew all too well. Impossible, Mitsuri said slowly in wonder. Could the mysterious counselor Nisiko be? Sorry, you too. It's time for some duck hot pot. The door to the screening room swung violently open, and Tsugi emerged, howling pitifully, I'm so hungry. With all the commotion over our vanishing Jewel, I haven't eaten since this morning. Let's have a duck hot pot. A duck hot pot. Mitsuri, will you join us?
What?
But Jewel's condition, asked Kiriyama. They say green onions help you heal. Anyway, that one, she gets sick at the drop of a hat. She's susceptible to cold, so she needs a haramaki to wrap her tummy, but she takes it off when she goes outside so it doesn't cramp her style. She did the same thing this time and, ouch! A cushion came flying through the air, thrown by Jewel, no doubt, and struck Sugi with a thump on the side of his head. Then a voice yelled loudly, "Don't say that, Sugi, you dummy." Huh? I guess she's feeling stronger. Well, I'd like to thank everyone one by one, but first, let's all have a nice duck hot pot. Mitsuri, will you call Cozy Eye?